Hi, welcome to the apocalypse. In the apocalypse, we still need money to host the website because the internet still exists even though you can't go outside. We need money to run our domain, things like that. And then also we just need money for shotguns, home defense equipment. And also I've just been buying extra dogs so that I can go out for extra walks every day to walk each dog. Holy water.
Remember?
Oh yeah, and holy water as well. But yeah, if you can support us, I mean, I've run out of podcasts to listen to, so you know, let's keep podcasts going, because what the fuck else are we going to do? You can go to Patreon.
No, the worst part is there's just a ubiquity of podcasts now, but they're all total amateurs. At least we had the decency to start this 2 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
And get it established.
I mean, at least we're three white guys with opinions on music that started doing this 2.5 years ago. There's going to be so many more of us out there now, but we've got the head start. So keep us ahead of the race. Go to patreon.com/Unsung Pod.
Hello, welcome to Unsung Podcast in the new fucking world that we live in. We are once again remote, and yeah, how are we all doing, guys? How are we doing?
I'm fine. Yeah, I've been on this couch multiple times.
3 or 4 times. Yeah, I'm okay, I guess. I've been working from home for a week and a half now. I'm not sure if I had coronavirus or not last week. I certainly felt pretty shite, so I was in full isolation. And now we're all in full isolation.
I'm in isolation now because one of our mutual friends had it and I was out with him, and then the day after he fell really quite unwell. He's been having breathing problems and stuff, so I've been in as well.
Yeah.
And well, I'm also still in self-isolation, and I hope to be out of it next week, sort of Tuesday next week. But I felt mostly fine. I've had a bit of a cough, but I've been okay. So I don't know if I've had it or maybe I'm mostly symptomatic. I don't know, but yeah. It's been shite.
It's quite a time, isn't it?
Maybe the fact that all three of us have had it suggests there's a fair bit of psychosomatic illness going about.
How dare you suggest that we are not mentally strong? But yeah, that's probably true.
Mark, your Static Age episode went pretty well. You got your wish.
Yeah, I got my wish, which was great because it deserved to be in there. Dave, did you listen to that record?
I listened to the record a bit. It's fun. I don't mind it.
Cool. So we'll get 3 yeses in.
It's very diplomatic.
I don't quite get it. I enjoyed the podcast more than I did the record, to be honest.
Oh. Yeah, Anna was great.
Was good.
Really good. I still feel bad that I mean, it performed okay, but obviously because of all the stuff that was going on at the time, still is going on, but it didn't get the listens it deserved. So yeah, maybe at some point during this, the disruption will be so extreme that we'll be able to put out one of those From the Vault episodes.
Yeah, I think we can count on that.
Or maybe somebody from Misfits will die or something. We can, it seems pretty get that wee boost.
So speaking of dying, what are we doing this week, Dave?
Oh yeah, so we are doing Year of No Light. It's it's an album called Ausserwelt, and they're actually French, not German, but Ausserwelt. What does Ausserwelt mean? I just realised I don't know what it means.
It means other world.
Other world, yeah, that's right. I actually knew that. So, Year of No Light have been one of my favourite bands for about 10 years now, since I first discovered.
Oh no, sorry. You know what? I'm giving you bullshit advice. It means outside world. Not like outside as in outer, not other.
Outside world. Oh. Well, that's ironic, isn't it?
Like Ausserwelt.
So that's a very ironic album to be doing right now.
That is,
yeah, it really is.
Thanks for that.
But it's also, after the Apocalypse soundtrack of last week. I mean, this entire band's discography is the soundtrack to an apocalypse in many ways. Would you say so?
Yeah.
I mean, this was horribly on the nose for strolling about recently. Yeah. Actually, today in my one jog of the day, I can't believe I'm obliged to jog and shop once a day now based on Boris Johnson advice last night. So many things to do in a day now. Go to work, jog, shop.
Walk a dog.
Never been this social. Yeah. So on my one stroll out, it was a little bit creepy outside today, and I had this in my ears, and yeah, it fits. It definitely fits.
Mm-hmm. So I suppose we should do a little bit on the band, and then maybe a little bit on the because they're maybe the second post-metal band that I've done after doing Cult of Luna.
Yeah,
but they also they take quite a lot from drone, from ambient, and on this record they start going into sludge and black metal as well. So we'll maybe talk about drone a little bit. We kind of covered a little bit of drone with Boris, I guess.
Yeah.
But
we did it a wee bit with the interview with Ben as well when we were talking about some of the experimental stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. Had either of you guys heard of this band?
I had never heard of them before.
Yes,
I'd never heard of them before.
They played here, right? A good while ago.
A while back, yeah. I missed them. But my friend went to see them in London and was just like brutally deafened by them. But I've been trying to get them to play in Glasgow again for like the last 6 years.
There was
they tour
there was
very lightly.
There was a big spate of these sort of bands, a big spate of kind of like a new wave of everything from Baroness and like the band Monarch that one of these guys is in. And they were, I kind of in my head, they're kind of like factored in with that whole new movement of metal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think their big selling point was that they had two drummers, right?
For this record, they I'll start off. They formed back in 2001, actually, in Bordeaux, in France.
Bordeaux.
And yeah, they were always kind of a side project. Everybody else was in a bunch of bands, including that band Monarch that you mentioned. Fingerprint.
Yeah, like Monarch are from further down the coast. They're from like Bayonne, which is kind of the French area of the Basque Country.
Yeah. So they got a third guitarist, Shiran Kadin, and he was in Monarch. But some of the other projects, Metronome, Charisma, Altair Temple, Nexus Sun, Deja Mort, Aeroflot, Baron UFO, and Donald Washington. Whoever Donald Washington is. So
can I just say straight off the bat, this is this weird situation where a side project was and still is far bigger than any of the main projects, right?
Yeah, totally. Because
with the possible exception of Monarch, which maybe at times got close, but I mean, none of those other bands are bands that anyone's familiar with, really, outside of their very small circles.
So this certainly, when they started, it wasn't the top priority for any member of the band, but I think basically they played local shows in Bordeaux. It was supposed to be an instrumental side project, but then they got in Julian Perez in 2003 as a singer, kept playing a bunch of shows and recorded a demo in 2004. They toured around France, Spain, the Basque Country.
Did you see the descriptions of the demo as The Cure playing Sludge?
Yeah, which I think is fucking brilliant, actually. And you can kind of see how that goes through right up until their latest stuff. They are very aware of sort of gothic atmospheres, big melodies, and yeah, you can definitely see that sort of romantic goth element of The Cure, but then also there was hugely heavy sludge elements.
There was kind of comments made about the fact that I think for a metal band they seem to incorporate a lot of shoegaze.
For sure.
So I think a lot of the melody came from that, from like My Bloody Valentine and all those kind of things as well.
There's a lot of that.
Definitely. A lot of that, and a lot of guitar pedals, a lot of delay and distortion and echo and reverb and chords bouncing around within a room for a long time. But yeah, so they recorded their first record in 2005 in Geneva, and it was released in 2006. It's called Nord. That was fairly successful in the sort of European metal circles and got really good.
Just to be clear, that's got full vocals in it. That's got almost black metal vocals at times.
Yeah, totally. And do you know what? It's a really, really great record as a post-metal album. It takes cues off My Beloved Cult of Luna. It's got sort of ISIS vibes, Neurosis vibes. Yeah. I think it stands fairly proudly amongst, you can put it up against Pelican and stuff like that. It's pared down. It's got, big riff, melody, builds and builds. And they produced it themselves with help from a guy called Serge Moratel. The production on it is a little bit better when you listen to the next two records. But I mean, you can see what they go for in terms of structures and just layers and layers and building and building. There's a lot more sort of hardcore bits on the Nord record. There's a couple of songs that are kind of take you to some American hardcore, and then also Swedish stuff like Breach and things like that, a bit faster. But I think there's definitely a Nordic vibe. It's really barren, really cold. It's Absolutely. Really harsh in places, hence the kind of black metal sort of touches that it has. I like the fact that the vocals on it actually were quite settled down into the mix. They're not. Oh yeah, they're definitely not at the forefront. They're not like a lead vocalist thing. Like even the cover of it is quite well chosen. It's got a really monochrome design that's sort of in keeping with that sort of vaguely black metal vibe. And I saw a lot of parallels with some of Neurosis's work as well. Yeah, which me and Mark mentioned in the last show. I think the track in it that really jumped out to me was number 3, which again, excuse my pronunciation, was it Traversier? Yeah, Traversier. Yeah.
That was particularly good, I thought, out of the rest of it.
Yeah, I think this got some really amazing moments of big heaviness and some also immense beauty on it. I think the production's a little bit thin at points, but it shows that the band are really sort of doing stuff. And yeah, the standout tracks for me, yeah, definitely track 3, Traversy. Got like that big build up for 5 minutes, then some vocals kick in, and then after like 6 minutes, I mean, yeah, once again we're dealing with long songs here. I think on Nord it's got 10 tracks and they're all between like 5 and 10 minutes long, with a couple of ambient smaller tracks. I think track 5, Le Monde de l'Empereur, is also amazing. The first 4 minutes are some of the heaviest that the band have ever done, like real big sludge. And then when it quietens down, it's got like this just really beautiful hand-picked guitar breakdown sort of thing, and then it builds and builds and builds. We're going to repeat the word crescendo quite a lot. Repeat the word build, repeat the word texture. There's quite sludge. A lot.
So can I just check, Sharan wasn't actually in the band at this point though, was he?
No, he wasn't. So this was just as a 5-piece of Seben, Alban, Anule, Perez and Sabin. So the drummer and the bassist are brothers, I believe. Track 7, Somnambule, is also fantastic. It's kind of like slow, chuggy, hefty drums, and then just beautiful.
That's sleepwalking.
Yeah.
Somnambule.
Yeah. I think it's a great record. I think the sort of more straightforward hardcore bits don't quite work. I can see what they're doing. But so that came out in 2006, and then they toured around. They got invited to play like Roadburn and Hellfest, the big fancy metal festivals in Europe that I've always wanted to go to, that are, you know, quite often curated as well. Anyway, the singer left in 2008, and then they brought in an extra drummer and then also another guitarist, I believe. So there were 3 guitars, 1 bass, 2 drummers. You should see like their live setup. It's loads and loads of big, huge Sovtech amps and vintage synths and exciting stuff. So in 2009 they recorded Ausserwelt and toured around, and that record was released.
They toured with that band Altar of Plagues from Ireland, didn't they?
Yeah, who are another band that I'd probably like to come back to. They're way more black metal, but sort of post-black metal and experimental and progressive. I think they are absolutely incredible. Year of No Light, then they worked on a live soundtrack to Vampire, which is a 1932 silent horror movie by Carl Dreyer, the Danish director, and it's kind of seen as the sort of unsung version of Nosferatu, the more famous silent vampire movie. And so they kind of, it's weird, they toured around the sort of heavy European circles. They went to the States at one point and did 11 dates, but you can still kind of see that they've never gone basically full time as a band because they've all got so many other things going on. Then in 2000,
I don't even know how much of an infrastructure there was in France for that kind of music. I mean, if they sounded the way they sounded and they'd come out of Sweden or Norway or out of Georgia or out of Boston, then you can kind of see that there would be a bit more of a scene for them to click into.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and even though objectively, if you put them up against a lot of these bands, they hold their own. Sometimes it does make a difference what kind of movement you're part of, not just what you sound like.
Yeah, and there's certainly like a French black metal scene at bands like Blue Out Nord and Celeste and stuff like that. But the guys in Year of No Light, as you can hear from their music, they don't really assign themselves to any genre or scene. So I feel like they were probably never going to be guys that went along with the black metal crew or whatever, or the and I'm not really sure what the sludgy post metal scene is like in France.
I also don't know how it works in terms of Bordeaux as well, because Bordeaux is in French terms, it's kind of not the centre of the music scene. Maybe if they've been in a city like Lyon or obviously Paris, cities like that have such a kind of reputation for big musical movements. I know bands from Bordeaux, but most of the bands I know from there are a bit artier, a bit more avant-garde.
Certainly.
I can't really think of many other examples of bands from even that sort of West Coast area of France that have this sound. And again, geography, even within just one country, can make a difference. Who is it you're playing with?
Totally.
How many big bands are touring there as well? Because if you're a big band touring and you're getting big supports, it really kickstarts. If you're a band like this from Paris, then every single big band is touring and playing in Paris. How many bands are touring and playing in Bordeaux? Probably still quite a few. It's a big place, but not as many.
Yeah, totally. So then in 2013 they released their third full-length record, which is also their last so far, called Toxin.
It's spelled in such a
TOCSIN,
kind of corny way.
Toxin.
I mean, if that had been a new metal record, we'd have been taking the piss.
They toured in the US in 2014. That included like 2 nights in New York. In their own underground scene, they are well respected, but they've been pretty much quiet for the last 5 years. I keep seeing occasional glimpses on their social media of saying, oh, we're looking at maybe doing a tour next year, or they do a one-off festival appearance, things like that. They have done a bunch of split records as well.
They sound like they've failed to achieve that sort of critical mass. And maybe it's by design. Maybe they just never really wanted to put their lives on the back burner for the sake of this band. But they never got that momentum of being able to command such huge fees that it would become a full-time occupation or justify that.
Yeah,
I know there was issues in one of their tours where they had to tour as a 5 instead of a 6 because one didn't have his visa sorted.
Yeah, that was.
And I think
US,
that suggests. Yeah, it suggests that maybe there's a lack of infrastructure around the band. They maybe don't, because it's unlikely that would happen in a case where you had like full management and a full booking agency and all that behind you. So it seems like they're probably still working on quite a small scale for things like that to happen. And it just kind of suggests they've never quite got to that level, or they maybe just never really gave a shit to get to that level where it would overwhelm their lives in that way. And that's kind of makes them a wee bit more special in some ways, I guess. It feels a bit more personal, and as you say, you never know if it's going to come back around. It's not like one of these bands that just does it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I love Pelican, but I've seen them about 5 times, and they keep releasing records that, their last one was great, but, I kind of lost track of the amount of albums that they've put out. Whereas,
see the five times you saw them?
Yeah.
Was the drummer good any of those 5 times?
Obviously not, no, but but I know we've talked about the drummer in Pelican before, but yeah, it's weird that the last time I saw them actually was last year at the Classic Grand, and I was just watching the drummer for like the first 3 songs, just going, I don't understand how you can still be in this band. So if you put Year of No Light in Pelican's place in Boston at the right moment, oh yeah,
you kind of get the feeling they would probably have done all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isis, that kind of thing.
But I have to say, Pelican did nail it in the end, just because they've got so many riffs and they power through, and they kind of work around the drummer rather than get taken places. But
drummer must have some really saucy pictures of the rest of the band.
Well, I think is he not one of their drummer? Is he not one of their brothers? So I think it's a family act.
Oh, that is the worst.
I know. But both the drummers in Year of No Light appear to be very good, or at least one of them is anyway. Nobody's holding them back. So yeah, I've gone for 2010's Ausserwelt. It was the first record I actually heard by them. I then went back and got Nord, which I really liked. It's got some really beautiful moments, as I've said, and it's got some great riffs on it. And then when Toxin came out, it was great. It was a great follow-up. But for me, yeah, Ausserwelt just sort of has defined what this band could be, but also how good a band can be at taking about 5 of my favourite genres and putting them all into a blender and playing them at once. Because they've released Nord and Ausserwelt through Music Fear Satan, which is a vinyl, but it's also obviously a Mogwai reference there.
I think like the Vampire soundtrack that you mentioned is the droniest one.
Yeah, so it's definitely, there's not much song structure there, and there's not as much percussion at all. I've never actually watched it with the film, but I can imagine it works very well. That is definitely going down the ambient route, and the textures and the sound, sort of the soundscapes rather than the songs. But
yeah, it's quite different from some of the earlier stuff, and it's quite hypnotic. It's nice actually. A couple of times I listened to it, I drifted off, and that's not a criticism. I just actually was, closed my eyes as I was listening. It's very patient, and it kind of lulled me to sleep. But I did enjoy it. I mean, I think you chose the wrong album, quite frankly.
Okay.
I think Toxin's a much better album.
Oh, interesting.
And I was really quite enjoying Toxin. I think Nord's fine. Nord sounds like a decent European sort of post-metal band with bits of Neurosis and stuff like that. It's good, but it's very, very derivative in the sense that it wears its influences on its sleeve, and I think there's a lot of bands, including Neurosis and many others that we've mentioned over the course of the last couple of years, that have done that just as well, if not better. I feel you can hear that they've pushed in such a different direction for Ausserwelt. And yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it in more detail, but it sounds very basic to me, and it feels like they made a lot of progress musically in terms of like construct of the songs, in terms of just a sense of like who they were and what they wanted to sound like by the time they did Toxin. So yeah, I found Toxin a far more engaging album. I think it's actually really pretty good. Stands up. It's up there with a lot of the Cult of Luna records. Maybe not the best. Maybe not like Highway, that kind of thing. But I think it's definitely up there. Yeah. With the majority of the Cult of Luna records. Even if it doesn't quite get to their peak, but they're a band that went professional. They're a band that sort of could just focus on nothing but that, and it doesn't sound like You're No Light ever made that sort of professional leap. Yeah. Yeah, I was a wee bit confused, so I'm kind of curious to hear what you say about this one. I know that this one's really driven by the idea of two drums and the idea of scale. Seems like an album of scale. Like, it's just, they had these other bands that were like, let's have a huge band with two drummers that's just big and simple, and the kind of the whole appeal is the scale of the noise and the spectacle and the size of it. I get that, but I think when you then reduce that down to a record, I find it quite underwhelming. It's sort of just sort of meanders, and I can hear how it would sound at volume. I can hear that would be cool, and that the double drums would be cool, even though the drums often just follow each other. It's just a matter of them, you know. I think there's a gimmickiness to that I can, as a musician, I love doing stuff like that. I've done that with my bands as well. We've invited second drummers in, and we've just had fun with that kind of thing, but it doesn't necessarily translate into the best records because you're too focused on the novelty of it, and you're not focused enough on the music. Whereas I feel with Toxin, they're a band focused on the music. They've actually got a kind of more sort of typical lineup, and they're making use of their components much better, and the songs just seem a lot more focused and less about that novelty. So that was my takeaway from it. Yeah, but, you know, I'm happy to hear you.
I mean, I
absolutely
love Toxin. I think it's amazing. I think it does have slightly more interesting movements to it. The arrangements are incredible. It goes heavy on the blast beats, but it goes, you know, really soft on the synth. I think there's a little bit in the middle where it sort of feels to drag for me, and I think there's a couple of parts at the end that. There's some synth parts that just sound a little bit cheesy to me, that at no point have they sounded cheesy before. I think it takes the sort of the atmosphere and the layered intensity of Ausserwelt and builds on it. Adds even more atmosphere and piles in riffs, but to me it just doesn't quite hold my attention as well as Ausserwelt, which I think is
Mark, what do you think?
I think I like both for pretty much the exact same reason that you like the Toxin, Chris. I like that it's a lot more focused, that it feels like it's a band that's driven by trying to be songwriters, but I like Ausserwelt a lot because it just feels like they're trying to push the limits of what they can do, and yeah, it might not be as consistent on the whole, but I think I admire Ausserwelt more as a kind of a I want to say statement, but statement's not the right word. Just as a piece in its own right, I think it works better for me.
Yeah, I think it's more succinct. If 48 minutes of, you know, droney post metal can be succinct, and I think it is a statement after Nord. The production is so much more massive. There's so many more layers, textures, bigger atmospheres happening throughout. Ausserwelt is like the stage where they went from being a good post-metal band to maybe being up in that top tier of post-metal bands, and also going sort of beyond the genre.
Ausserwelt sounds to me like the band I would really make a point of going to see at Arctangent, because that's their kind of festival, but then I wouldn't buy the merch, if you know what I mean. I really, really would love to see it live because of that drumming, because of the scale, the amps, yeah, that whole aspect of it is really thrilling as a musician, especially. But I think as a takeaway listen, I don't. I feel it's quite beige. I don't know. That's overly harsh. I don't mean beige, but I do mean that I think it's quite featureless and a little bit passes me by a wee bit.
For me, I just want to get lost in it. I just want to wash myself in it. I just love the sound of it so much.
Yeah, I'm with you in that, definitely. I just want to sit with it for a while, and just be immersed in it. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, just see before we do analyse the album, we never actually said the Year of No Light, which is a really cool name. I'm not sure, but I have a feeling they took that from a band from the 90s called 3 Mile Pilot. 3 Mile Pilot are one of these American kind of alternative indie bands that are weirdly popular in France with a lot of the underground French scene.
Yep.
So that would kind of tie in as well, and they had a track called Year of No Light. Also, coincidentally, they featured a member of Pinback, and Mark, if you remember from last week's episode, they also featured the guy Paul Jenkins, who plays the Saw in Black Proposition.
Oh, there you are.
It's a small world. But I have a feeling that's where they got it. It seems a bit of a coincidence, and as I say, just friends in France are quite into 3 Mile Pilot. They're just one of those bands that seem to click there with that underground scene, along with bands like Pinback. So that I would imagine that's possibly an explanation. But it is a really cool name. I like it.
It tells you what you're getting, artwork as well.
I mean, if I got a band Year of No Light, you know exactly what's in the menu, don't you?
Yeah, there's not going to be any reggaeton dancehall here.
I have to say, I don't particularly like the artwork for Ausserwelt. I think it's a wee bit. I actually quite like the artwork for some of their other stuff, but that one just is
a little bit
too on the nose.
A little bit goth, maybe. Yeah,
it's too on the nose with the post-metal thing. I prefer the stuff that's a wee bit more unconventional, has a bit more personality about it. There was a period, it's a bit like that period in sort of crossover electro stuff where everybody was using triangles and sort of polygons and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's like there was an era of post-metal where everybody just had these sort of similar sort of monochrome,
symmetrical, like
doomy
islands or like monuments on fire or something like that.
Yeah, just the cover leaves me a bit cold. I find it a wee bit.
The textures of the grey are good though. I quite like the overall look of the album, but then when you look at it more, I see what you mean.
But sorry, talk about the album, man. I'm curious to hear your take.
So it starts off with a two-parter, actually, track 1 and track 2. So it's cut into 4 tracks, which are all about 12 minutes long. Between 10 and 13 minutes long. First one is Persephone Anna. And so as soon as it starts, you can hear the chords opening up. You got feedback, you got synths, you've got drones in there. It all just expands and expands. And if you've come from Nord, you can hear that the production is already sounding absolutely massive. You've got layers and layers. You've got rooms and rooms of reverb and delay and feedback. And after about 2 minutes, the drums and bass and guitars all kick in. Got like the big post-metal chord progressions, a whole genre built on these. So like the layers of distortion sound massive. You've got repeating refrains further up the fretboard. You can see that they're using all 3 guitars properly.
It's quite shoegazy.
It's definitely like they are just loving the delay and the fuzz, and I suppose it's like that weird mix of shoegaze and drone, which are both kind of like-minded bedfellows in many ways, because they just want to make as much noise as possible, and it's kind of a primal thing. It's about that huge soundscape of kind of beautiful noise. but then the band are pinned down by the bass and the guitar who drive through. So just as you think it's going to get massive, or as massive as it's going to get, high guitars cut out and then it goes huge and heavy. Got a bunch of stuff going on with the rhythm. The bass line is doing 30 BPM, the rhythm guitars are doing 60, then you've got snare and cymbals are doing about 240 and then huge crescendo, huge guitars coming back in, and then it just knows when to stop, lets you take it all in, allows you to catch your breath for a couple of minutes with some big riffs, and then another couple of minutes of ambience, and then it sort of fades out and fades straight into Persephone core.
If there's anything we need right now, it's catching our breath, by the way.
Well, yeah, that's true. I actually need to catch my breath because I talk so long about that song. Give me a moment.
I think I really like the kind of the guitars are kind of swirling. It's like towards the end of that, like in each channel, it's kind of cool, and there's like a weird kind of
totally
feedbacky effect, which is awesome.
Yeah, they're nailing that. I mean, I think panning and the stereo and everything is amazing on this.
It's definitely interesting how beauty's in the eye of the beholder, because the stuff you guys are describing is not what I'm getting from that tune. I get something quite lumping and quite sort of plodding, and that I really want it to do something unexpected, and it never does anything unexpected. And I think from that I took that whole project with the two drums was just that. It was a kind of throwaway thing. They were like, let's not spend too much time worrying about making this the coolest, smartest song in the world. Let's just have fun playing really loud with two drummers. And as a result, I feel it's just meandering post-metal to me. I don't think it's bad, but I don't think it does any of the kind of... I don't see any of the majesty that you guys are describing at all.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
I just think it works perfectly, and it's sort of how primal it is, and it's got that stripped back basic sludgy element to it, but then the production around it just makes it sound so huge and majestic. I love that tie, and I love that movement and progression that it's taken from Nord, and it absolutely doesn't need the vocals as well, I don't think. Then into part 2, Persephone core. Drums coming out, the drone, guitars from both sides joining in. Yeah, the bass once again is taking you up and down that sort of classic post-metal chord interval.
It's got like at one point it's got this like really big generic sounding fuzz, which I think you could be doing without, to be honest. I like the kind of vibe of this song as well. But when it's a big heavy fuzz, it's like it's ripped right straight out of Neurosis or something, but it's like Neurosis like fucking 15 years ago or something. So
I totally I know where you are. It breaks with that big interlude riff, and it kind of
See, and I find the phrase classic post-metal progression a bit of a euphemism for like totally being done.
No, I think in 2010, had it been done that often?
Neurosis were 17 years into their post-metal journey in 2010.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, as much as I like Neurosis, this appeals to me so much more because they're taking it kind of back to basics and then building on the sound. I don't know. We'll talk about Neurosis more in depth at some point, I imagine. And then it goes on to Hierophante. I'm going to say it's possibly my favourite non-Cult of Luna post-metal track.
The start of it sounds like it's aching almost, which I quite liked.
Yeah. I think the riffs, it's just so big. The lead guitar is beautiful. Production is just so textured and layered throughout. The drums and melody coming in after 3.5 minutes further adds intensity, and at 6 minutes it all sort of just slows, and it's just got this ridiculously lush distortion. And then, it slowly builds again, getting faster. Drums go absolutely fucking mental, both of them. And then, it just finishes with your 2 minutes of ambience. I don't know. I mean, this appeals to what I want a band to sound like, and I guess is true. Then beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Maybe there's something about particular chord progressions, particular guitar tones that I want to hear, and then this band are just absolutely ticking all these boxes for me on this record. And maybe if you like things slightly differently or whatever, then you don't quite get it as much as I do. Then moves on to Abyss. Dramatic guitar lines, huge drum fills, blast beats, finally getting some proper post-black drone sludge metal. It's literally all my favourite genres at once. It's kind of got a triumphant riff to it, big dramatic moments, then huge key change at 6 minutes, gets you where you're not expecting it. And then at the end, it's fucking huge, massive. Like, to me, it sounds like wind blowing through some old Norse castle in the middle of winter. And then, then it fades out. So, there's only so much you can describe this without actually hearing it. But I guess, like, I understand where you're coming from, Chris, because I was kind of torn about going for Toxin because it is a bit more progressive. They do try a little bit more, but to me, Ausserwelt was the record that took them from Nord, which was a fine post-metal record. They got rid of the singer, they beefed up the production so much, and it just, as I say, it ticks so many of my boxes just in terms of sound, in terms of genre. It's drone, it's post-rock, it's sludge, it's black metal, it's doom, all in one. And I think it's just such a huge step up for the band, and just really, took them up there in terms of quality to being, up there on the sort of god level tier of post-metal with Cult of Luna and Isis and Pelican and stuff like that. And I mean, I've talked about it before, but I just fucking love dynamics, and it doesn't get much more quiet than the quiet bits on this, or quite so loud as the loud bits on this. For me, it's 48 minutes of perfect post-metal, but you can disagree with me, Chris, if you wish.
I think I would put it in because I'm going to say that either this or Toxin I'd be happy with either. We're probably not going to come back around that again. I don't think if this doesn't get in, are we going to come back and talk about Toxin? Don't know. I like both, and I'd be happy with both.
I think they're a band that they've obviously not hit a level of, you know, professionalism in terms of touring or what have you, and you don't see them on the circuit as much as you should, and not a lot of, you know, they don't have the profile of many post-metal bands. But I think in terms of quality, I think they've got one good record and two fantastic records for me. And live, I've heard reports that they are absolutely incredible. So yeah, if you're into this type of music, then I think you should be listening to this band. And I think for me, Ausserwelt is their most succinctly perfect record. But I mean, if you want something a bit more progressive, then go to Toxin as well, because they're both great records.
I think purely because of the format of the show, it's a no for me. I don't think it's a particularly great record, but I do think I would have said yes to Toxin had you put that forward, so I want that on the record. But it's a no with an asterisk that I think you picked the wrong album.
Yeah,
so
that's fine. Okay. Well, we've got a weird Nexus now, but I'm happy with it. Can we?
I've got an amazing Nexus. Amidst the chaos of this week, I managed to pull together something really pretty special.
Okay, excellent news.
This is the first time we're seeing Nexus tonight. Will it be the last? What do they have in store for us? Not good for
Why am I here? You're in the Nexus. This is the Nexus. For you, this is what you want.
So who chose the Nexus?
It was Jen Ho, G-E-N-H-A-U, and she chose the singing. The Singing Kettle.
So for those of you not of a Scottish persuasion, the Singing Kettle were an exceptionally famous youth music performance sort of thing.
Give it its genre title, Dave. Chuchter Wainfolk.
Chuchter Wainfolk. That's absolutely it. So basically every single kid between 1980 and about 2010 went to see the Singing Kettle at some point, between the ages of 3 and 7, and sang.
I saw them on their first tour, it turns out.
First tour, holy shit.
OG.
I was 5 years old when they did their first tour. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
OG.
So such classics as You Can't Fling Your Granny Off a Bus and other ones.
It's the Singing Kettle theme tune.
But yeah, they're a hugely Scottish institution. So we've got to get from French post-black metal drone to the Singing Kettle, and I'll go first because it was my choice. So yeah, I think I already talked about it. They worked on Vampire, the Danish horror film from 1932, directed by Carl Theodor Dreyer. So as I said, Vampire itself is kind of seen as an unsung vampire movie, next to Nosferatu, which was its more well known, but this is possibly the slightly superior version. The Eureka 2008 DVD release of Vampire featured commentary from film director Guillermo del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, Guillermo.
That guy.
Sorry.
Guillermo.
Best known for Pan's Labyrinth and Shape of Water and Pacific Rim. That was a bad film.
Oh no. It's like better than Transformers for sure.
Well, yeah, actually that's true. Better than Transformers.
Have you guys heard of a film called Robot Jocks?
No.
Is that Transformers with
Robot? Seriously, wow. Robot and then J-O-X. You ever heard of this? It's the film that Pacific Rim was basically based on, or they kind of got their ideas from, and it's in a world where war is outlawed and countries have to settle their conflicts via these giant robots that fight. They're allowed one each, and so they all go into these big battles, and you should definitely look at it. It's like a total cult sci-fi classic.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
They totally ripped off for that.
So Guillermo del Toro famously does like one English language movie and then one Spanish language movie. His first English language movie was a film called Mimic, which is like a sci-fi horror film starring Mira Sorvino, Jeremy Northam, had Josh Brolin, F. Murray Abraham in it. Did anybody ever watch it?
Yeah, it's actually pretty scary.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. Anyway, one of the stars was Josh Brolin, who has been... he kind of just came out of nowhere, I remember, in the early 2000s. Do you know what? It was because I never actually saw the Goonies when I was little, so I didn't really know of him until No Country for Old Men, really. But anyway, in 2015, he was in the film Sicario, which is a very good film. A shite sequel, but very good film. And one of the best parts of that is definitely the cinematography. It's an absolutely stunning looking film, and the cinematography was done by a Mr. Roger Deakins, who has fantastic white hair and blonde skin, and he's dark tan skin. Anyway, he recently did 1917, which got him some Academy Awards, as well as Blade Runner 2014. But one of his earlier films, he used to do a lot of Coen brothers, and he worked on Oh Brother Where Art Thou as well, that sort of weird satire comedy based on the Odyssey, set in the Great Depression in Mississippi. The soundtrack to Oh Brother Where Art Thou was done by T-Bone Bennett and featured loads of sort of bluegrass and old folk music, as well as some new stuff. And at one point, one of the musicians on that was a Louisiana musician called Dirk Powell. Dirk Powell then later on worked on a soundtrack to something called One Last Chance, which was sort of early American folk music documentary, I think. And he worked on that with Donald Shaw, who is a Scottish musician, founding member of the band Capercaillie, and also the creative director of Celtic Connections Festival. Celtic Connections Festival, every night of its run, they have 3 weeks in Glasgow all around. They do a festival club from 10 a.m. till 5 a.m. 4 days a week, and the festival club is hosted by Mr. Kevin MacLeod, who is a lovely bald man who is also one of the members of the Singing Kettle. There you go.
Well, we got there.
Sorry, that was slow, but done.
Chris,
Mark, all right, who's on take a swing? Mark, you take a swing.
Okay, so one of the members of the Year of No Light, how do we pronounce his name again? Sheeran Kidani? Oh. Anyway, he plays in a band called Monarch, and Monarch have played with a number of bands, including my beloved Baroness. Baroness have of course toured a whole bunch, and one time in Glasgow they played with a band called First Temple of the Atom. Is that right, Chris?
Baroness played with Titus Gain.
There we go.
And Titus Gain. Two of the members of Titus Gain are in First Temple.
There we go. See, I got them the wrong way around. But yeah, one of the members of Titus Gain, or First Temple of the Atom, is Ian Finlay Walsh, and he.
Ian's in First Temple of the Atom. He plays bass. He was in a band called Lapsus Linguae.
Oh yeah, that's how I know his name. Now it all makes sense now. And then his girlfriend, is Jane Fisher of the band Fangs, and Jane.
No. That's not even remotely true. His wife will be raging if that is true. I believe Ian drummed with Fangs.
There we go.
And Fangs, Jameson Fangs. Fangs were on, by the way, they were on Orange Saturday morning TV. There was some kind of band competition, and it was the weirdest thing ever when I woke up on a Saturday morning to see Ian, the booker from Glasgow and a guy I've known for a long time, drumming on like a Saturday morning TV show as part of this Orange thing. It was extremely surreal.
Anyway,
so it wasn't even like someone phoned me and told me to turn it on. I was just like, what is going on?
That's there, shit. Yeah, and the Fangs is headed up by Jane Fisher, who is the daughter of the one of the founding members of the Singing Kettle, and she was also in it herself.
That bit is definitely true.
Yeah. Fun times right, for all cool. Involved.
Okay, I've got a good one, right? But I'm going to do that thing that Dave does, where sometimes I'm having to like refer between a bit of paper and my screen, because this is a ripper. So, and I think I've done a mark as well.
Went backwards.
Yeah, I have gone backwards. God damn it! So now I've not only got to do it referring between things, but I've got to go backwards. So, oh my goodness, surely this is the worst thing about coronavirus. Okay, so working backwards. Whew, here we go. Year of No Light in 2011 did a live performance of a thing called the Monotone Symphony. The Monotone Symphony is a sort of 20-minute single note full arrangement, but originally written by a guy called Yves Klein, a French artist who we'll mention in a minute, and then it's followed by 20 minutes of silence. There have been various performances of it over the years. There's a really famous one from France. I'm trying to remember what year, maybe about 2001, something like that. And in that, it's basically just a full orchestra being conducted to play I think it's a D, so it ends up sounding like a D major because it's just a full orchestra playing this D for 20 minutes, and it's actually quite euphoric, and it starts to really mess with you because you hear various kind of fluctuations in the wave and all these kind of things, and then they just stop, and when they stop there's 20 minutes of absolute silence that goes on after it, and it's like an enforced silence where it feels like the note is still going because your ears are so used to it. Now that was originally performed by Yves Klein. It was only done once during his lifetime, and when he did it, it was during his like blue period. He was an artist in France, and basically it was accompanied when he did it by 3 naked models smearing themselves in blue paint and rolling about on canvases that had been put on the floor and on the walls. It's like reasonably famous, it was a pretty cool performance at the time. He's sort of classed in with some of his other work with guys like Andy Warhol and stuff. Yves Klein's an interesting guy. He was, I think, the first person in Europe to get to like the 4th Dan in judo, a total beast. And working backwards, he was also I don't know how fully immersed in it he was, but he was basically part of the Rosicrucian faith. Do you know about Rosicrucianism?
I do not.
Dave?
I don't know if I do.
So Rosicrucianism is a weird thing. It's actually weirdly associated with Scotland. You see there's like a crucifix with a rose in the middle of it, and the two of the like major texts of it are called the original Scottish such and such and the something else such and such. Sorry, I'm making a bit of a ham-fisted job because I'm trying to work backwards here. But Rosicrucianism is basically like it's like a combination of like occultism and then a bunch of other beliefs as well. So it includes some Jewish mysticism, some Gnosticism, and the other one, Hermeticism. Is that the other one? And I think the secret part of it is that the members possess like a secret wisdom that was handed down to them from ancient times. There's also a bit in it, and in certain aspects of it, about a castle in the sky with wheels, but that bit I just do not have the time to go into. It's pretty amazing.
That's the bit that's drawn my attention.
I mean, like, I really wish I could go into more into depth on Rosicrucianism. But anyway, there's one of many conspiracy theories about Shakespeare, other than the fact that Francis Bacon was involved in the writing of his works, is that both Francis Bacon and Shakespeare were, I don't know, Rosicrucianists, I guess it would be. There's like it's a bit of a dark hole to go down, but basically there's a bunch of supposed evidence that Francis Bacon was a Rosicrucianist, or Rosicrucian, whatever. So yeah, you can look that up if you want. It's fascinating. It's a fascinatingly weird religious branch. But Shakespeare, as we know, wrote a play called Much Ado About Nothing. Okay, now in what year would it have been? Hang on while I try and work backwards. 1955 in the Brattle Theatre, which is, where is that? Cambridge, Massachusetts. An actress called Susan Cabot, Cabot, C-A-B-O-T, she performed in that play. I can't remember the role that she did in it. Now, Susan Cabot had been in loads of films in the 50s and stuff. She'd been in like a bunch of westerns like Tomahawk, which is quite a famous one. She'd been in Gunsmoke, which is a really famous one as well. And then a bunch of B-movies. There's one called The Wasp Woman, I think. Yeah, loads of weird 50s, and in fact, I think she stopped in the 50s, in fact, so like late 40s, late to the 50s films. Susan Cabot has such an interesting story, right? Susan Cabot was killed by her son, all right? Susan Cabot's son killed her with like a weightlifting, like a dumbbell bar, bludgeoned her to death. Her son had dwarfism, he had pituitary gland problems, and he also had CJD, as in like Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. Wow. Right? It gets more mental, right? Now, he claimed that she woke up in the night confused, screaming for her mother Elizabeth, and then attacked him with this dumbbell bar and a scalpel, and he took the dumbbell bar off her and beat her to death with it, which is obviously what you do. I mean, that again is a fascinating story to go into. He then also realised that people probably wouldn't believe that, so he claimed that she was killed by a ninja, or at least a person in a ninja mask, which I think is still technically you're claiming that someone was a ninja. Now, her son, God, I can't remember the boy's name actually. Timothy, that's it. I think his actual name was Timothy Scott Roman. I don't know why he had a different name, but Timothy Scott Roman was, at some point in the process of the trial and the charges, his attorney came out and claimed that he was the son of Susan Cabot and King Hussein of Jordan, who had had an affair with her in the early 60s, supposedly. Right, King Hussein, this is me going backwards. King Hussein of Jordan, it's a really interesting character. He was, first of all, the one that did the first democratic experiment in Jordan. Jordan is not a particularly liberated society, but in the context of the Middle East, it likes to think it is, even though it's very oppressive. King Hussein was like a big fan of motorbikes, though. He had like 4 different wives. He had at least 2 divorces and 1 wife that died in a helicopter crash. He was the guy that oversaw peace with Israel, finally, between Jordan and Israel. All these different aspects of his reign were quite turbulent, including pulling out of West Bank and all this kind of stuff. He was also apparently a very daring pilot. Henry Kissinger testified to that. King Hussein of Jordan also claimed to be the 40th descendant of Muhammad. His son Abdullah II is now the 41st descendant of Muhammad and the ruler of Jordan. And the royal family of Jordan were entertained by a command performance by the Singing Kettle. Right?
There's the big link right there.
There are only 2 royal families in the world, the first obviously being the British royal family, and weirdly the Jordanian royal family. And a command performance is where the royal family specifically requests a performance by this group. I have no idea why the Jordanian royal family are such a big fan of the Singing Kettle, but there you go.
Fucking hell.
That is impressive.
That is, yeah.
Great work.
Wow. Well done.
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved to have gone into Rosicrucianism and Susan Cabot in more detail, but yeah, we just don't have time.
No, that's fair.
Yep.
I mean, we do have time. We've got all the time in the world, but I've got to go make my dinner, actually. So,
yeah.
Right. So, well, thank you very much. What we do next week?
It's my choice. I'm going to take a swing at something, and I'm going to say right out the gate, the likeliest reason it won't get in is not because it's not amazing. It's because it may not be unsung.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy, there's a lot of difference of opinion about his best music, his best works, and I just want to put it to bed, because for all the people that don't associate this album with the peak of his career, let's just get that out of the game.
So I've chosen Meatloaf.
Exactly. So I've chosen Mule Variations by Tom Waits.
Oh,
okay. From his much more experimental, less jazzy anti-period later on. I mean, it is very highly regarded. When you look on lists, you'll see it near the top, but it's often also, 5th, 6th, and that kind. And I just want to dispel that. It's an amazing record, and I'm looking forward to talking about it. And hang on 2 seconds, and I will rummage about in here and get the.
Well, Tom Waits for No Man, as we all know.
Oh, there you go, eh? Okay, so the Nexus is by Andy Morrison, and it's Wesley Two Scoops Berry. Who's that?
Who's that?
Wesley Two Scoops Berry.
Wesley Two Scoops Berry is an American gladiator competitor from the 90s.
There we go then. Tom Waits to Wesley Two Scoops Berry.
Great.
See you back here for that buzz. And by see you back here, I mean I'll be staring at the wall.
Yeah, see you back in our bedrooms next week. Alright, go vote on facebook.com/unsugpod for Ausserwelt by Year of No Light.
Mind and wash your hands.
Stay safe, everybody. Don't go coughing on anyone.
Don't go outside.
Don't go outside, really, apart from your one
jog a day.
Loud walk. Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, as Mark will testify, I don't know when it'll see the light of day. Our radio show has been put on ice for the time being because the radio station is basically unreachable. But I recorded a fairly spectacular episode.
I'm excited to hear
about Kiss with Luigi Pasquini, and it is. I mean, it is something to look forward to. So at the end of all this Corona nonsense, apart from the fact that you get to shag and go and eat pizza again, you can also listen to me and a drunk Italian talk about Kiss.
Oh, I'm buzzing for that.
So good.
All right, team.
Stay safe, folks.
See you later.
Take care. Cheerio. Bye.